Isn't it easy to have things delivered these days? It just seems with the click of a mouse or a tap on your smartphone app, you can get pretty much anything delivered. Did you know DoorDash will deliver batteries to your house on demand? I saw a commercial the other day where the announcer proclaimed, "Your remote control batteries are dying all the time," and encouraged you to go order fresh ones from DoorDash. If you've listened to my previous episodes, episode number 1 on robber barons, where you will hear about the origins of Amazon and Jeff Bezos, and in episode number 6, where I talk about the origins of food delivery, you can see how far we have come with regards to the internet's involvement with our day-to-day lives. But this podcast is called Success Before the Internet. So as you know, I like to talk about things that happened before this glorious invention, or a phenomenon that has its roots before the internet, even though these phenomena are well entrenched into our daily lives. As with a lot of things, courier delivery was a lot different before online delivery services like Amazon, Alibaba, Wayfair, or even Temu. I like to call it the before Amazon period. I'm not going to talk about postal services like USPS or Canada Post and the like. I'm just going to talk about two main players in the courier field before Amazon. With things like social media, e-commerce, and the sharing economy, I think we forget what success looked like before the internet. That's what this podcast is all about. It is a bit history, a bit nostalgia, and for some, perhaps a bit of a revelation. I know you will enjoy it. So let's look at a success story on success before the internet. There was success before the internet, you know. We just forgot. Let's get started. Episode 9, Before Amazon, Part 1, FedEx. Welcome to the show. I'm going to talk all about two big players in package delivery before big e-tailers like Amazon came onto the scene. There are FedEx and UPS. This will be my first two-parter on the podcast. There will be a lot of information to take in, so I'm going to talk about FedEx in this episode and then talk about UPS in the next. But before I get started, remember to go to Apple Podcasts and give the show a 5-star rating and share the podcast with anyone who you think will enjoy it. If you want to support the show, go to successbeforetheinternet.com and click on the link Support SBTI on TipJar. You can also tip regularly if you come back often. I'm sure you will. All right, let's begin. FedEx Corporation, originally known as Federal Express Corporation, is an American world-renowned courier company based in Memphis, Tennessee. The name FedEx is a syllabic abbreviation of the name of the company's original air division, Federal Express, which was used from 1973 until 2000. FedEx today is best known for its air delivery service, FedEx Express, which was one of the first major shipping companies to offer overnight delivery as a flagship service. Since then, FedEx also started FedEx Ground, FedEx Office, originally known as Kinko's, FedEx Supply Chain, FedEx Freight, and various other services across multiple subsidiaries, often meant to respond to its main competitor, UPS. FedEx assists in the transport of some U.S. Postal Service packages through their air cargo network contract. FedEx air shipping services are centered at its hub at Memphis International Airport. The FedEx story is a relatively short one, comparatively speaking to companies like UPS, as the company was founded by its current chief executive, Fred Smith, in 1971. However, over 50 years later, the company has the world's largest airline in terms of freight tons flown and is the world's fourth largest in terms of fleet size. The company has almost 300,000 employees and sales revenue of more than $40 billion. All right, our story begins in the early 1970s. It was a time when the concept of overnight shipping was more of a dream than a reality. But one man had a vision to change all that. His name was Frederick W. Smith, and he would go on to revolutionize the logistics industry. However, let's go just a little further back and talk about a little more about Frederick Smith. Frederick Smith, born in 1944 in Marks, Mississippi, was a young man with big ideas. After attending Yale University, Smith wrote a paper on the need for a centralized air cargo system. His professor was not impressed and gave him a C, but Smith believed strongly in his concept. This paper laid a foundation for what would later become FedEx. After graduating from Yale, Smith began Federal Express with a $4 million inheritance from his father and $91 million of venture capital. Not bad. He based the company on the ideas that he developed at Yale, focusing on an integrated air-ground system. He started the company at the Little Rock National Airport in Arkansas, but after 2 years of lackluster cooperation by the airport, Smith moved the Federal Express operation to its current location in Memphis, Tennessee, which was Fred Smith's hometown. Federal Express started air operations from the Memphis airport on April 17, 1973, with 14 Dassault Falcon 20 jet aircraft that were used to move packages between 25 cities. The first 3 years of operation saw the company lose money despite being the most highly financed new company in U.S. history in terms of venture capital. It was not until 1976 that the company saw its first profit of $3.6 million based on handling 19,000 packages a day. FedEx's early days were not without challenges. The company faced significant financial struggles and a severe cash crunch. At one point, Smith had to make the difficult decision to use the last of the company's funds to buy fuel for its planes rather than meet payroll. Fortunately, a $30 million investment from a group of investors and the support of the investment community helped keep the company afloat. FedEx's big break came on April 17, 1973. The company launched its first overnight air delivery service with 14 aircraft and 389 employees. The service aimed to deliver packages overnight, and this was a groundbreaking concept at the time. The company focused on hub and spoke model, where packages would be flown to a central hub, sorted, and then dispatched to their final destinations. By the mid-1970s, FedEx had already started to build its reputation for reliability and speed. One key to their success was innovative tracking systems. FedEx was among the first to use barcodes and computerized tracking to provide real-time updates on package status, a major leap forward in the logistics industry. The deregulation of the airline industry in 1977 meant that the young company was able to purchase a large jet aircraft to increase the number of packages that could be transported per day. Federal Express bought 7 Boeing 727 aircraft shortly after deregulation, followed by the purchase of Boeing 737 aircraft. The company increased its profit in 1977 of $8 million on a sales of $110 million. The company had 31,000 regular customers, including IBM and the U.S. Air Force, which used Federal Express to ship spare parts. Federal Express became a public company in 1978, which raised capital for further expansion. The year after going public, the company made a profit of $21.4 million on sales of $258.5 million with 65,000 packages a day to 89 cities across the United States. The company's growth was meteoric. Also in 1977, FedEx launched its first international service, marking the beginning of its global expansion. By the early 1980s, FedEx had a fleet of over 70 aircraft and was delivering packages across the United States to various international destinations. The 1980s and the 1990s were transformative decades for FedEx. In 1983, FedEx introduced its famous absolutely positively overnight guarantee. further solidifying its reputation for reliable delivery. The company continued to innovate, launching FedEx Ground in 1985 to provide more economical ground shipping services, and FedEx Express in 1989, which combined air and ground services for faster deliveries. In this decade, companies started to increase their use of overnight delivery services, moving away from the United States Postal Service. Federal Express started competing directly with USPS by introducing the document-sized overnight letter, which could contain 2 ounces of documents for a flat fee of $9.50. This service made Federal Express the company with the largest sales of any U.S. air freight company, ahead of Emery, Airborne Freight, and Purelator Courier. In 1984, FedEx made its first acquisition, Jelco Express, a Minneapolis-based package courier that served 84 countries. To develop overseas markets, Federal Express made acquisitions in Britain, the Netherlands, and the United Arab Emirates. In 1985, the company looked to develop an international presence and expand its services to Europe by opening a European hub at the Brussels airport. By 1987, Federal Express was providing service to about 90 countries and had landing rights in 5 airports outside the United States at Montreal, Toronto, Brussels, and London, with limited rights in Tokyo. To further expand international delivery, the company acquired Tiger International for $883 million, along with its heavy cargo airline, Flying Tiger Line. Federal Express gained access to Tiger's long-range fleet, which included 22 Boeing 747, 11 Boeing 727, and 6 DC-8 aircraft. In the 1990s, FedEx made a series of strategic acquisitions to expand its service offerings and global reach. Notably, the company acquired Falcon Air Express in 1994 and later in 1998. It purchased the courier service RPS Railway Package System, which became FedEx Ground. FedEx also made strides in technology, introducing advanced tracking systems and investing heavily in its IT infrastructure. This focus on technology allowed the company to offer services like FedEx Web Services, which enabled businesses to integrate FedEx shipping into their own systems. This decade found Federal Express with competition in the U.S. from UPS, which had introduced volume discounts that attracted many of Federal Express's customers. International operations were costly for Federal Express, with falling profits on increasing sales due to the cost of developing the overseas markets. To increase capacity and decrease costs, the company shed its Boeing 727 aircraft for Airbus A300 aircraft. In 1994, Federal Express adopted FedEx as its official name, and a year later purchased air routes from Evergreen International to start services to China. It opened an Asia and Pacific hub in Subic Bay International Airport in the Philippines. In 1998, FedEx acquired Caliber Systems and created the FDX Corporation. The purchase of Caliber meant that FedEx obtained the small package carrier RPS, now FedEx Ground, less-than-truckload carrier Viking Freight, now FedEx Freight West, Caliber Logistics, Caliber Technology, and Roberts Express, now FedEx Custom Critical. Despite its success, FedEx faced its share of challenges. The late 1990s and early 2000s brought economic downturns and increased competition. The dot-com bubble burst, and the post-9/11 world brought new security challenges and changes to international shipping regulations. However, FedEx demonstrated resilience by adapting its strategies. The company invested in enhancing its security message and streamlined its operations to cope with rising costs. FedEx also diversifies its service offerings to include logistics and supply chain management solutions. One significant event in FedEx history was the 2004 rebranding of the company. It consolidated its various services under the FedEx umbrella, creating a unified brand that included FedEx Express, FedEx Ground, FedEx Freight, and FedEx Services. This move helped streamline operations and reinforce FedEx's position as a comprehensive logistics provider. Today, FedEx is a global leader in logistics and transportation, serving more than 220 countries and territories around the world. The company operates a fleet of over 700 aircraft, including Boeing 757-200, 767-300F, and 777 freighters. This is the world's largest fleet of aircraft, and FedEx is the largest operator of the Airbus A300, Airbus A310, ATR 42, Boeing 727, Cessna 208, McDonnell Douglas MD-10, and the McDonnell Douglas MD-11 aircraft. FedEx replaced all its Boeing 727-200 aircraft in 2016 with Boeing 757 planes, which are 47% more fuel efficient than the 727 aircraft. This is despite Boeing ending production for the 757 back in 2004. FedEx purchased used 757 aircraft from other airlines at a cost of $2.6 billion. FedEx was to be the launch airline for the Airbus A380 freighter, but canceled its orders after 2 years of delays. FedEx replaced the orders for the A380F with orders for the established Boeing 777F. They also have over 200,000 vehicles and employs hundreds of thousands of people worldwide. FedEx continues to innovate with the advancements in technology, including the use of autonomous delivery vehicles, drones, and artificial intelligence. The company is also focused on sustainability with initiatives aimed at reducing its carbon footprint and increasing the efficiency of its operations. Looking ahead, FedEx is likely to continue evolving with the logistics industry. As e-commerce grows and customer expectations change, FedEx's ability to adapt and lead in technological innovation will be crucial for maintaining its competitive edge. Let's look at some interesting facts about FedEx. This list is a compilation of mostly fun facts about the overnight shipping company that, like such Memphis predecessors as Piggly Wiggly and Elvis Presley, changed the way the world operates and has become synonymous with Memphis. So, in honor of FedEx's 50th birthday last year, I have compiled a list of 50 interesting facts about FedEx. I hope you'll enjoy the list. Some of them are quite hilarious. Here we go. Okay. Frederick W. Smith, or Fred Smith as he's generally known, founded the company in Little Rock, Arkansas, incorporating the name in 1971. Smith developed the idea for FedEx in a 1965 term paper at Yale University. He proposed an air route system specifically for time-sensitive shipments, like medicine, computer parts, and so on, that didn't rely on passenger routes. If a hospital in Texas needs a heart valve tomorrow, Smith told Memphis Magazine in 1978, it needs it tomorrow. All right, hubba hubba. So why did FedEx decide to celebrate its 5th anniversary in 2023 and not in 2021? Because the company didn't really take off until 1973, when Smith chose the centrally located and not already overly busy Memphis International Airport as the location for the company's hub, where arriving packages would be sorted for delivery to the destinations. Smith, incidentally, was born on August 11, 1944 in Marks, Mississippi, making him arguably the most remarkable man to make a mark out of Marks. Hardy har har. All right, on opening night, on its first night of operations on April 17, 1973, FedEx shipped 186 packages to 25 U.S. cities via 14 Dassault Falcon jets. One of those jets, named Wendy, is now on display in the Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum in Washington. FedEx now averages more than 15.5 million packages and 24 million pounds of freight a day. That's crazy. On its historic first flight, FedEx had 389 employees. The company now employs more than 530,000 people worldwide. All right, everyone knows this one. In the 2000 movie Castaway, partly filmed in Memphis, Tom Hanks played one such employee. He was a Memphis-based FedEx system analyst who, after a cargo plane crash, is stranded on a tropical island where he befriends a stray volleyball, which he names Wilson. Hanks received a Best Actor Oscar nomination. However, the Academy ignored the volleyball. The W in Frederick W. Smith does not stand for Wilson. It stands for Wallace. Arguably one of the most successful ad campaigns in history, FedEx introduced the Absolutely Positively Overnight slogan in 1978 and continued the theme until 1983. The phrase entered everyday speech and continues to be quoted in conversation and parodied in pop culture. Embracing what linguists call a syllabic abbreviation of the original name, the company that most people once referred to as Federal Express officially became FedEx in 2000, a new name for a new millennium. From 1997 to 2000, the FedEx Corporation was known as FDX Corporation. Wings of Eagles. Founded in 2012, the FedEx Purple Eagle program names planes for a child or grandchild of a FedEx employee who is or has been a patient at St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. That's nice. On December 14th, 2020, FedEx delivered a spark of hope with the world watching. The commercial appeal reported when the company completed its first shipment of COVID-19 vaccines to a hospital in Massachusetts. In the first year of distribution, FedEx delivered approximately 300 million doses of the vaccine from manufacturers and distributors to centers throughout the U.S. with an average delivery time of less than 20 hours. In 1987, before pandas were regular attractions in Memphis, close to 250,000 people visited the Memphis Zoo to see Zhu Hua, a giant panda who was here for a month as a special loan from the Mexico City Zoo. Of course, a special FedEx cargo plane handled the panda's travels. Zhu Hua was not unique. In 2019, FedEx transported Bebe, a panda who was born at the National Zoo in Washington in 2015, to a conservation center in the panda's homeland of China. Reportedly named in a collaboration between China and Michelle Obama, Bebe means precious or treasure. Bebe was probably the most famous of the multiple pandas who have been FedEx customers. In fact, FedEx has become so adept at panda transport, they refer to the planes that handle the job as the Panda Express. In 2020, FedEx delivered an 850-pound polar bear from Rochester, New York to the St. Louis Zoo. The bear took a plane ride via FedEx Express and then was transported on a temperature-controlled truck transport via FedEx Custom Critical. In other animal news, FedEx Express delivered to London the 10 horses that made up the U.S. equestrian team that participated in the 2012 Olympics. Of course, in yet more animal news, FedEx helped the Save the Chimps organization rescue the Sunrise 7. Vanilla, Shake, Caleb, Ernesta, Jake, Jeff, and Magic from a closed California animal refuge. The chimpanzees were flown to the Save the Chimps Sanctuary in Fort Pierce, Florida. In 2009, FedEx moved 7 beluga whales and 4 Pacific white-sided dolphins from the Shedd Aquarium in Chicago to the Mystic Aquarium and Institute for Exploration in Hartford, Connecticut. After the Shedd Aquarium was renovated, FedEx moved all the whales and dolphins and porpoises back to Chicago. FedEx also moved 2 sea lions from Tacoma, Washington to the Shedd. In 2010, FedEx Custom Critical moved 70,000 sea turtle eggs from the oil-threatened Gulf Coast to an incubation facility at the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida. Later, the hatchlings were released into the ocean. In 2014, FedEx transported a rare Tyrannosaurus rex skeleton from the Museum of the Rockies in Montana to the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C. It's a few million years late for a rematch, but last year FedEx moved the 1,000-pound skull of a Triceratops, the three-horned herbivore believed to be T-Rex's mortal enemy, from Colorado University to the Smithsonian in Washington. King Tut's gilded bed and close to 17 tons of other priceless artifacts from King Tutankhamun's 3,300-year-old tomb were ferried by FedEx around the world from Los Angeles to Paris for an international touring exhibit in 2019. In 2006, FedEx transported 90 tons of material, including a 3,000-pound piece of the ship's hull from Milan, Italy, to Atlanta for a show titled Titanic, the Artifact Expedition. A longtime NFL partner, FedEx now routinely delivers the Vince Lombardi Trophy from the NFL's New York headquarters to whatever city is hosting America's most grandiose sporting event. Most recently, FedEx delivered the Super Bowl trophy to Phoenix in February. FedEx has delivered the trophy 23 times. Ever had a cake delivered by FedEx? Reporter Max Garland asked in a 2021 story in the Commercial Appeal. Actress Hilary Swank has, in 2018, FedEx Custom Critical delivered a specially made organic wedding cake to Swank's wedding. On April 7, 1994, Federal Express flight engineer Auburn R. Calloway, who was facing a dismissal hearing, boarded FedEx Flight 705 with a guitar case containing several hammers and a spear gun. He attacked the crew with hammers in an attempt to crash the cargo jet. The struggle was violent and the plane at times was out of control, but the crew subdued Calloway and landed the aircraft successfully. Calloway was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms in prison for attempted murder and attempted air piracy. Dave Hirschman, a reporter with the Commercial Appeal who covered the Flight 705 extensively, wrote a book about the case that was published in 1997 titled Hijacked: The True Story of the Heroes of Flight 705. In 1986, FedEx became title sponsor of what then became known as the Federal Express St. Jude Classic. The professional golf tournament debuted in 1958 as the Memphis Open, and in 1969 it became the Danny Thomas Memphis Classic, with its charity component going to support St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, which Thomas had founded. The PGA tournament is now known as the FedEx St. Jude Championship. In 2002, FedEx paid a reported $92 million for the naming rights to the Memphis Grizzlies' new arena, which opened in 2004. Memphians should be happy. FedEx Forum has a nice ring to it, and it sure beats, for example, the moniker affixed to the Louisville basketball arena, the KFC Yum Center. In addition to delivering packages, Fred Smith has delivered entertainment. In the late 1990s, he became the financial backer of Alcon Entertainment, an independent production company that has created such films as My Dog Skip, Blade Runner 2049, and the Oscar-winning The Blind Side. Meanwhile, Molly Smith, Fred's daughter, became fascinated with the film business and in 2013 co-founded the Black Label Media Production Company, which has a partner in La La Land and has produced such films as Sicario and the recent biopic Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody. Younger sister Rachel also got bit by the movie bug and has been a producer on such Black Label films as the recent aerial epic Devotion. Over the past 18 years, FedEx has delivered some 15,000 live Christmas trees to military families through the Trees for Troops program of the St. Louis-based Christmas Spirit Foundation. FedEx delivers to more than 220 countries and territories, including every address in the United States, according to FedEx. FedEx operates more than 700 aircraft that serve more than 650 airports worldwide. FedEx utilizes more than 215,000 motorized vehicles for ground delivery. Did you enjoy the large topiary sculptures of Alice in Wonderland, the Queen of Hearts, and other Lewis Carroll characters in the Alice Adventures at the Garden Show last year at the Memphis Botanic Garden? If so, Thank FedEx. The company transported the top year here from Atlanta. During the baby formula shortage of 2022, FedEx coordinated with the federal government in May and June to deliver enough formula to agencies serving hard-hit communities to fill what a FedEx spokesperson called millions of baby bottles. FedEx delivered a 4-ton drill and 5,700 pounds of equipment to Midland, Texas for use in the rescue of 18-month-old baby Jessica, who had fallen down a well in her aunt's backyard. The retrieval effort, which took 58 hours, garnered worldwide attention. In 2011, FedEx shipped a delectable 3-ton chocolate replica of the Notre Dame Cathedral from Salon du Chocolat in Paris to a chocolate show in New York. In 2004, FedEx transported 504,000 bottles of Beaujolais Nouveau wine from France to Japan in an annual uncorking event hosted by Japanese onophiles. FedEx Cares is the company's global community engagement program. The website, FedExCares.com, provides information on numerous initiatives at home and abroad, including earthquake relief for Syria and Turkey. Among its key inventions, FedEx is credited with developing the tracking number in 1979. The concept is now ubiquitous. Apparently, the first mention of Fred Smith and Federal Express in the commercial appeal occurred on August 29, 1972, in a story titled Ex-Marine Pilot Realizes Dream. The story reports that Smith, a former Memphian and decorated Vietnam veteran, created a company in Little Rock that operates a fleet of small air cargo carriers to airlift priority cargo for shippers into cities being abandoned by the long-range, large-capacity jet aircraft. The story ran in the newspaper's C section on page 20, just past the TV listings. The second time Fred Smith and Federal Express appeared in the commercial appeal was on December 30th, 1972. The story, which did not carry a byline, ran on page 28 of the business section and reported Jet Air Freight Line Way's opening branch in Memphis. By 1973, the newspapers were getting the message. $3 million sorting center taking shape at airport, reported the Memphis Press Scimitar. The commercial appeal, meanwhile, was prophetic. Federal Express is zooming into Memphis, wrote the morning newspaper, where it eventually may become one of the city's largest employers. By 1983, Fred Smith was the nation's highest paid chief executive, the Press Scimitar reported. Forbes placed his earnings that year at close to $52 million. In 2012, FedEx delivered robotic equipment to Hawaii as part of a mission to locate the missing aircraft of Amelia Earhart, the famed aviator who disappeared along with her navigator during a 1928 flight over the Pacific. The plane was not discovered, so Earhart, unlike most FedEx packages, remains lost. Well, those were a lot of tidbits of information about FedEx. I'm sure that if you're ever studying for a game show like Jeopardy, having that knowledge might be a pretty good idea to have. Might make you go a little further on the show. It's amazing that a company like FedEx was able to make such an impact on the shipping industry in such a short time. Even though Amazon uses services like FedEx and UPS less and less since they use their own warehouse and their own transport services, it's managed to stay relevant throughout its history. In fact, if you've ever had to do a return with Amazon, what? You say? You always get what you want the first time with Amazon and never have to do a return? Psych. You can choose FedEx and one of the many carriers expedite the return. I hope this was a good primer into the history of FedEx. Now you have more information about them than just what you learned by watching Tom Hanks in his 2000 film Castaway. Wilson! All right. That's all for this episode of Success Before the Internet. Stay tuned in 2 weeks' time where I will drop part 2 in this series where I will discuss the origin story of UPS. I hope you found it enjoyable. informative, and entertaining. Thank you for tuning in. You can find us on any of the podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Actually, I should probably say YouTube Podcasts because Google Podcasts doesn't exist anymore. I'll have to change the script for next episode. I have now set up a tip jar, so if you tune in regularly, you can go to successbeforetheinternet.com and click the Support SBTI on Tip Jar link. If you're not able to, that's okay. Just leave a 5-star review of the show. It really goes a long way into getting the show noticed. Also, please share on your social media platforms to help get the word out. If you tip, I will mention it in my next episode. Why? Because you are beautiful people. Thanks a bunch. You can also find us on Facebook, or you can go to our website, successbeforetheinternet.com, to get all our episodes streaming there. You can also email me at successbeforetheinternet@gmail.com with any comments about the show. I would love suggestions for future episodes. You will get a shout out if I use your suggestion for a show topic. All the music in the show is from my band Sideshow. Our music can be found on SoundCloud under the name Sideshow Band 72. So until next time, I'm Dan Vespa, and remember, there was success before the internet. We just forgot.